This is the Take Your Turn 2022 tournament hosted by Groove of War. Groove of War hosts Wargroove commentary and analysis, a link to their channel in the description. Take Your Turn is composed of 3 events: Wargroove, Chess, and Go. And on this channel, we'll be looking primarily at Go. My name is Arn Fosta, and this commentary is aimed at newer players, players in the double-digit Q ranks. If you do spot any mistakes, things we miss, please just let us know in the comments. Commentating with me today is Just Your Eventual Ruler. Hey, Ruler.
Hello, and today we're sponsored by alliterations. Alliterations are always awesome, although allow accidentally awkward associations at all auspicious affairs.
Beautiful. I hope I'm not going to be required to celebrate by doing this whole commentary in alliterations, though.
Indubitably,
Today we're going to be
in
looking.
fact.
Today, in fact, we're going to be looking at round 2, game 2 between Just Your Eventual Ruler playing black and Zeronix playing white. Let's go ahead and jump in. There's something as we see this game begin to take shape. It looks pretty standard. I really wanted to ask you and just start the conversation with your thought process right around here in the first opening moves. You have Zeronix approach with this P5 play. Still a standard Joseki. You follow up, and then after this, what I was in going back and looking at things, it looked like a common, I believe it was an M3. There are several common variations in Joseki. One is to play it at A with R3 and kind of take your piece of the corner. The other is to turn around and play at M3 and try to potentially pincer or at least get yourself into the other side and begin to put pressure on both on the middle group. You chose a really interesting path and completely different. So I'm hoping you can tell us a little bit about this play here at Q10.
Takamiya style. Okay, so my game plan in this game, I think it's very important to know that I felt like I was playing a really unfun match last time. Not unfun, but like it's not my style, and I'm going to be it's not playing to my strengths. My strengths in this game is like using my influence and developing really well. Usually developing very lightly. So because of that, if I don't really feel like attacking this group right now. It's gonna lead to it is potentially advantageous, but it's gonna settle, and it's not really gonna help me build a framework. And if I just take the corner points, I still have a lot of weaknesses that black can or white can exploit, which makes building a framework harder. So because of that, it's probably more prudent for me to like really try and solidify my structure and try and go for a big moyo in the center while white still has 2 weaknesses. I technically have some weaknesses, but they're pretty minor. There's jumping points at N16 and Q13 in between the large extensions. Those are pretty well known. They're just weak in between them.
I'll get there eventually.
Yeah, yeah,
Q13. There we
and
go.
it's symmetrical at top as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, these
N16.
are you. It's a bit difficult to settle here, and black can undercut, or it's an undercut technically, but it effectively acts like a kick and an enclosure at the same time. Um, it's becomes really hard for the opposition to really settle. So I'm not terribly worried about that. In fact, I encourage white to do that because if they screw up, they're dead. I win the game.
And you mentioned these vulnerabilities, so we see white go ahead and play back at L3, and it's not too long. If I cheat a little bit, I was gonna say it's only a couple moves before you're looking. You play that O17, really looking to shore up this corner and really remove as many of those vulnerabilities. At this point in the game, where are you looking to next? You've just gone ahead and tried to lock down and remove vulnerabilities in the corner. You've got a large framework here on the right hand side. Where do you feel like is it at this stage is most important to be concentrating on the board?
Um, Generally where I'm on the outside. So so I think we skipped over this, but I actually played '07, which
Hmm.
is a pretty important move in terms of how this game's going to play out. It's going to be kind of like a race to who gets to the center first. Um, and both of us can get to the center. I think I get to the center faster because if they try to develop out that way, they're too weak, and I can attack at the weakness. And even then, I can still back up a little bit and perfectly cover and still allow that weakness. So because of that, it's going to be who gets more out of the center versus how much white can really get with their weaknesses at this point. Um, so when white jumps in a few turns later, I don't agree with this. I think this is the inferior place to jump.
As opposed to
Um,
like a Q13 play, or are you looking elsewhere in the
yeah, because
same?
I prefer this because it's less pressure. You're much easier to settle, and you can start carving out points from under me. Maybe they were afraid of letting me get all these points on the top, but I'm gonna get points on both sides, or on either side, right?
Right.
And if you're trying to invade, you probably want to go on the side that doesn't have the enclosure already. So you're already approaching. Um, Here it just gives me a nice developing move.
Yeah. So I mean, you go ahead and just go ahead and attach yourself the jump out,
And
and
then just play solid,
mhm.
play fix the weakness. You want them to run. And then this happens, and I will forever never want to play Zero after they've done this twice. Oh my goodness. Oh, I've literally started practicing this Joseki so I'd never have to think about it ever again. This one and the one at age 17, those two Joseki. Oh my god. This gives me nightmares.
Do you feel like so you talk about you talk about in a few moves back comparing the N16 versus the Q13 and the way in which you might look to invade and why you might go for one over the other. When the when H16 comes down by Zeronix, do you feel like the N16 now works, or do you still feel like it that Q13 would have been an overall potentially an overall stronger move?
um, I don't know. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna lie.
No, that's
I
yeah, it's a
mean,
genuine question for me too. Like you still have either way, even without the N16, you have you're pressuring the F17 stone, right? But the advantage now is that with the N16 and N14, there's suddenly a lot more pressure on this K on your K16 stone that there would not have been the same kind of pressure if it had been a Q13.
well, here's the thing. White, even though White looks like White made a great move, I would still call this move pretty inefficient as a trade. Because just look at the amount of space they've gotten compared to the amount of space I've gotten on the top. Um, because they've approached two stones, I'm just willing to give up the pincer stone in order to get an initiative advantage. And I think this was a potential strategic mistake. It makes it much harder for White to actually get out. Um, because of the next move I do,
Mm-hmm.
and I think we should show it. I don't think this particularly swings it any other way. Um, yeah, it doesn't swing it, but even though it's forcing me to run, it's also making it harder and harder for the inside group to live, which gives me more points. And I think that's very important because even though I played a pincer stone, he had to respond to the pressure of the pincer stone, and I get initiative because of it. I actually don't really need to respond to this move. In particular, my entire plan is more so to make sure I have a big center and make sure I block off white from connecting is at least more important in my mind.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I think the other point you made is a really good one too. We do have the setup with N16 and N14, but because of your response at Q13, in terms of the points you get, not only has your top right really been strengthened, your right hand side has removed one of the big weaknesses that stands out, and in comparison, by this point, white is trying to create the ability to poke in at the top, but isn't able to generate any additional ability to poke in on this side. So it feels like they've really unintentionally helped you strengthen that position. And then, like you mentioned, is a really great point. That pressure forces you to respond, but in doing so, you are not only jumping out, you are starting to build this. You've already got this right hand side that's pretty strong,
Very strong, yeah.
and you're building the left hand side to trap those stones in and turn the situation around.
Another thing is the size difference. This happened in the X-Men game versus me. It kind of looks like if you take just the D16, the H16, the K16, and the Q16. So the star point. So the top,
D16.
the star point, and then my star point.
Just these, these two here.
Well, not just those two. You were right. H16 is one of the moves, and then Q16, which is my star point. So if you just look at this, white has looked like they've just made an inefficient move.
I see.
White's just simply on less space. Yeah. This is my idea. I'm okay with giving up that one stone because white had to play inefficiently to get that stone. And it also gives me an initiative to make other stones weaker and develop a bigger center. So I can, and it's not even like that stone is immediately dead. You still have invasion possibilities at D17, D16, or D17, D18. Like, those are still a thing. So I don't really need to worry about the health of that stone if I can win the battle overall, you know?
That makes sense. So if we then move forward a little bit, again, makes sense. Strengthening, you jump out, and then
they fix their weakness, which gives me time to take this next move,
which is a big move. So once they fix their weakness, did you immediately think of K6, or were you considering a couple possibilities?
I was considering less big moves, but I figured I'm stronger within my position, and this also, in return, if they try to push out, it also helps me solidify. So they can't really push out with their white group on top. It's not good. They can't push down.
The inner group, you mean?
Yeah, the inner group. It's not good for them to push down. This also sets up, if they don't respond to this somehow by playing on one of the weak points, you just have too much. You have so much reduction.
Yep.
There's you threaten to weaken the group on bottom, which is really, really good. You also threaten to just take a crap ton of space. You don't even need to take a crap ton of space. I think in this position you can just probably do a large knight's move or just a jump from one of the stones. So you have a little square you can plan. And then you have no weaknesses because the weakness at M7, M6 doesn't really exist. It's Miai to block.
So can we talk about that though? So you do you've made a large move here, and you're saying you feel like it's relatively safe. What was your expectation for how white was going to respond? Because likely white doesn't want to let you just get that move for free.
I expect white to make a transition into the middle game because we've pretty much played out the opening. I don't know. By this point, the computer's basically said this is even, right? This is pretty much even, dead even. I don't care, right? This is opening, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here, this forces an exchange in the middle game where I'm obviously netting some groups and have potential to attack groups, where their potential to attack groups really, I don't think is as strong as mine. like my reduction is going to be scarier than their reduction. I think the only real reduction they have is at the bottom right, which I willingly gave up for initiative. So me losing that isn't that big of a deal. Like that's 14 points for potentially like 30, at least at this point, this early in the game.
Right at this stage.
And because of that, I mean, I'm confident that I can maybe pull some magic in the middle game and come out
Come on
ahead.
ahead. Yeah. So then we do have. So White's response is to start moving in here with. And so you mentioned, I think you said the M6 and M7. Did you expect the M8?
No, it's probably a better move than I initially realized, but because it just gives you an extra stone
Right.
for free, pretty much. But I was expecting something at the weaknesses. But I guess it's just not greedy enough. Like White does actually need to go in and destroy some of what I make, not just threaten to destroy it. You know?
Right. And weaknesses, you're looking at like
Yeah,
in a K8, a
yeah. And I think in this
K9.
position, it's also really useful because you'll see the exchange that's forced out of it. I have to play very precariously.
Yeah. So you
Oh,
you play back. White jumps back, and you're still keeping on this. What's interesting to me, or I think a good thing or a really good example of those moves that are doing multiple things, is your this both your your M6 and then your J8 plays here in these last set of exchanges. Not only are you trying to net these stones, right, and keep everything contained, and try to build up your strength in the center here. You're also building more stones. Because you're building more stones in the center, you're also leveraging yourself to do further reductions and jump out. In the same way here, you're putting more pressure on. And so I like the way in which these stones are serving multiple purposes at once. And even though they're most immediately being used to kind of contain this net, they're giving you the potential to later on try to use that as a platform to, if you feel comfortable, just reduce, or potentially be used as a fallback if you need to get aggressive. So it's cool to see those moves used in that way. And then, so I wanted to ask about this series of exchanges, partly because I think there's a really common, um, you know, maybe the easiest question for you
computer
is
hates this.
why not go for K, why not go for K7? Why not go for the
um,
the immediate play, and instead you go for the L6 and sort of cinch that up and leave that a little more settled.
it's important to note that I still have a lot of Aji here. They have a lot of forcing moves, and I'm still trying to surround another group. You got to make sure your things are strong. It's not guaranteed that they will, like you know, like defend there. It's not important for them to defend there, and because of that, A is not Sente and it's not forcing enough. White has a move like L9, right? After I play A, and that's not fun because that's a very important stone for me, and I don't really want to get into a co here. White has more co threat opportunities because I still have a bunch of weak areas that I need to defend, whereas White's a little more settled overall and can afford to just let me play somewhere and then destroy my like give White an out,
Right.
which is not good, especially with how like massive this point area is now. It's pretty imperative that I make sure stuff is strong so it doesn't get captured.
I think that's just one of the things I've noticed in a number of the games throughout the tournament is that I think some of the players who have played, and I think it's a very common thing, where you there can be an impulse because you see a potential threat that you might be able to leverage to go for that, to be the most hyper aggressive in a situation like this. And so I really appreciate explanation on weighing whether or not to go for it, because there may be times in which you would want to go ahead and press for the co, but your decision whether or not to was trying to look at the overall situation, the larger state of the board, and what consequences come from playing at K7. So instead, whoops, we'll jump back a little bit.
Because yeah,
Got ahead of myself.
like it's important to note that after I play B, after I descend, if they try to do the same thing, the real threat is also on the top stone. It's a double Ataria in the last one. In this
Right.
one, I can just simply respond by going up. And if they try to Ataria the other way, I think I just fix, and they still have to spend a mood to make sure that's connected. Either connect or push in, and either way, it's risky. Like there's this is when it gets more complicated after they
Right.
played this, but I don't think they did this.
No,
So
no. So
I'd say this is probably the most trying. That's the most trying variation. I don't remember what I read out,
mm-hmm.
but I read out that I was fine-ish.
Right, good enough. So,
Yeah.
but instead, they ignore that entirely, and they look to kind of.
Connect their stones. They're like, I have this connection. And I'm like, no,
Mhm.
you don't.
Mhm.
No, you don't. I know this trick.
So you have the I was gonna say you have the push through here that was really nice, and then the series of forcing moves that keeps them split. It was a really
Yeah.
clean, um, clean execution there.
Yeah. This is when I think I make a small mistake here. Yeah. So this is me trying to poke at the shape, thinking this is Sente. This is next move is white responding, saying, this is not Sente. Please respond. I really shouldn't let them go in, so I do have to block. And now it doesn't matter. Yeah. Like now I can I think I block under because it's stronger to block under, or do I block on top? No, block under.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I basically say white can't actually get through because there's only a 2-space gap. And generally speaking, you don't get through 2-space gaps unless there's Haji somewhere.
I do want to point out too. So we're on move 57, and I want to jump back for a second. I do think it's really useful, because another thing that I think is really common among newer players is sort of a fear of a fear of space, a fear of open space, a fear of larger, larger. Larger, what feel like larger frameworks, or at least in the beginning feel like larger frameworks. So you know, as you said, you have these gaps here, right? You've got a decently large framework, and it can feel like it's just the most open thing in the world for newer players. And so I think it's really helpful to see the ways in which how it develops and how you begin to sort of fill in the gaps here, and use this, and how you leverage these stones, right? I think is another great example of how you mentioned here. The placement of the stones allow you to leverage easy follow-ups to just begin to strengthen down, and we had this what used to be very open is suddenly getting more and more contained, and you're maintaining this outside framework and not allowing white or Zeronix to really get any significant punctures through. You know, the structure itself is holding really well, and I think the way in which that's done is really good. Plus, you know, for example, we look at it, this, as you mentioned earlier, this '07 stone gets to come into use here as a really easy extension connection that just allows you to peep and to strengthen this left hand or this bottom side here, and really just continue to threaten. And then, as you mentioned, you go ahead.
White's peep here is to make shape and try and make some eyes, but they also ignore the peep in the process. Foreshadowing,
which you don't take advantage of. You leave it for the moment.
There's no need to take advantage of it right now because it's insignificant. It's more important to make sure the shape goes in a direction where it is an important move for me to push in. And
I wonder.
Yeah.
So we have the L10 play. I wonder, as you were mentioning earlier, instead about the potential for a K10 play to push in. I think that the L10 seems more suggestive of trying to make life from within the group.
Yeah, that's what they're trying to do. It's really hard to get out. It's really tough to get out here. It's going to be a running Liberty battle if they try to go at K10, and I think I win just because I have more space.
That's fair. I need to read out more. I'm wondering about some potential points
They also have to
there.
worry about their Panuki dying because their Panuki started to get a little shaky.
I mean,
Uh,
yeah, that's fair. That's
mm,
fair. So instead, Zeronix does decide that, or does seem to decide that it's better to try to make life from the inside. So they're threatening simple connection, and they're
just play
looking.
simple here. Yeah, just play simple here. I actually allow them to split me up, and
Yeah,
this
what
is the
was
follow
the
up.
what was
This
so
is follow up.
okay? So that was so you allow them to split you up because of this particular follow up.
Yes, this is a very strong follow up. It splits the group. Like it threatens to split the group. I'm pretty sure. In fact, I think it's guaranteed to split the group at this point. Yeah, at this point it's guaranteed.
Mm-hmm.
Because I just take the elephant's jump. I poke out the elephant eye. Um, ooh, I don't take it yet. Well, I think it's.
I
I
think it's a
think
little later.
then. I think it's because it doesn't matter right now.
Mm.
I think if they block diagonally, I'm able to get out. I think that's what it is. I think I have two ways to actually get out.
So it doesn't feel necessary to
Yeah.
push it right now.
This is to make sure I have liberties. This is going to be a liberty race pretty soon if I am not careful. So I want to make sure my stuff doesn't get tactically destroyed.
Makes pretty reasonable sense. And so you have this connection, and then
Ooh, I wreak havoc.
yeah.
This
So
is
this is interesting because it looks initially, I think it looks just like a simple reduction to force them to connect. But can you talk a little bit about it? Because you had larger aspirations.
yeah, larger aspirations. I'm pretty sure this move just kills, or it kills this local group because of the situation. Now, if you're very attentive, I mentioned earlier that it's me for me to get that stick group out. I admittedly don't remember the very specific variation, but I do know that poking at the eyes gets me out, and I'm pretty sure there's another way for me to get out. I'm pretty
Mm-hmm.
sure. Um, so because of that, that group is safe, and you also have to realize that the bottom group is now sectioned off. And because of that, I can actually threaten a lot internally. This move is very forcing because if they just give them up, I kill the group. It's or pretty close to kill. I don't even need to specifically take. I think I can just play N10 afterwards, and that's pretty devastating to any eye space.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so white should probably the easiest response for white to think of is to probably, and if you do that, you run into problems, some pretty major problems. As in, N10 is still good.
Right.
There's no eye space now. That's just a big stake for white. It's a dead small dragon. Um, um,
And so with white trying to then connect back and try to keep this larger connection going and prevent the loss of as many stones as possible. Yeah, you've reduced the eye shape. Are you concerned about the M11 cut?
no, because of the next move, which guarantees a connection. This is why this works. It forces a connection. Either way white plays, black will be able to connect up to a safe group, and because of that, they'll be able to get out. Especially since that bottom area is looking extremely weak now. I don't think white has a good option of dealing with this.
Is it worth it to N8 here and connect, or is it better to just cut your losses and is there?
It's probably better for white to try and make life somewhere else, or get a forcing move on the outside or something, because white still has pretty major weaknesses on bottom.
Yeah, and
So
I think I'm also just looking at it even elsewhere within this group if there's because so for example, I think it is really important to be careful about which not Zeronix is good enough. That wasn't the case, I'm sure, but in newer players, I think we often want to reflexively protect all our stones and connect back whenever we're under threat, which we don't necessarily need to. And especially in this situation, it's sort of a good question to ask yourself is, these stones are under threat right here. I have a way to protect them. What happens when I connect back? Where are they going, and is that group okay? Right. So when we look at the connection back, that connects us to this inner group here. Is this inner group okay? No, not really.
No,
Can this inner group be okay?
not
It
really, because
feels
I
pretty
think I figured
dicey.
out the move. I think the move is O12 because I can connect both Bob. If I can, it's basically a clamp. It acts as a clamp. If white goes
Mm.
up, I play on bottom, and it's me. I had to connect, no matter which way the Atari. So I think that's the move.
Can you just get out and
Yeah, and then it's a liberty. I remember reading this out. It's a capturing race, but I win the capturing race because of the I just have enough threats.
mm. Whew. So then you connect back, you remove that vulnerability.
I I don't think this move is good. It tries to make shape, but it just makes it my job easier. I'm pretty sure I mean this feels like okay. I do this first. Um, it's probably a safer way than poking out the eye. I think it is, and then I just have to respond.
Right.
Because my groups aren't weak here. They really aren't. Um, I don't really need all the points here. I can let them reduce, and they still have to make sure they get out. Like this is tenuous at best, in my opinion. I think okay, I do double Hane.
Yeah.
Um,
And you do, and so then we get
yeah.
push
Okay. Wait. I
down,
would like to point out I double. So back at the
double
double
Hana.
Hane
Sure.
props. So I actually misclicked here,
On
and
the
I
double
would like
Hana.
to thank Zeronix for being a champ and like allowing me to redo this move. I
Oh.
accidentally clicked that S15, so one
Oh.
to the right of that. Which would have been pretty bad. Um,
That would have been very
yeah,
different.
yeah,
Okay, so Cyronix lets you do what you originally intended, which was double Hane.
yeah.
They are a champ. Um, so you get these series of this small exchange here,
That's a mistake. They shouldn't have Atari'd this way, um, because of this.
and now those stones are protected. Here,
Yeah, those
though,
stones are dead.
I was gonna
Those
say,
stones.
yeah, is S18 really
Ooh, I was
enough?
talking about. I was talking about something else. I was talking about the Atari I just did.
Oh,
It's
the
yeah,
group of four.
yeah. That group is dead. For those who aren't looking, basically white can't connect because I'll net the group. So my black stones have an out, and because of that, it's really, 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 really unfortunate for white. But white has to make life. White is forced to try and make life in the corner, and I read out S18 the pretty much to entirety, and I'm gonna let you try and figure out whether it's unsettled, alive, or dead. From your first initial reaction to this move.
A real board life or death problem.
Yeah, this is a pretty good Samago. The next move definitely makes it easier. In fact, if you're a weaker Q player, I'd probably suggest just ignoring this and then doing the problem afterward where the shape is a little more defined because it's a little easier.
Hmm.
But this is, we'll see, we'll see. Yeah, it should be pretty telling with my next move. I think my next move, we can go on. I Tanuki.
Yep.
So that means it's either dead or unsettled,
Right.
at
Enough.
least in
Right.
my eyes.
Enough that you're willing to Tanuki to play elsewhere that you didn't feel the need to immediately respond.
Yeah.
Whereas Zeronix then says, then I'll take advantage of that.
Okay, and this is for the weaker Q players in the top right corner. This is a good Smego. Is white here dead or alive? And if they're dead, prove it, and if they're alive, prove it.
Yeah. Useful to take a minute and recreate just the general
It'll be
board state
spoiled.
here.
You'll get the spoiler answer here if you continue watching. So this would be a good time to pause. But
Yep.
Without further ado,
Without further ado, we have R18 by Zeronix, and then you go ahead and respond. Q18, locking down the potential for more eye space right
yes,
here. And then
and then
it might look
yeah,
like it looks like there's the possibility for two eyes here,
but there isn't.
but there
So
not
White made the mistake of thinking a real eye was well. They made a mistake of an area looking like an eye that wasn't because I could falsify it. They guaranteed themselves one eye, but one eye is not enough to live. In fact, White plays the next move thinking that they're still fine, that they can make eye shape still. I think they play A7 or R17.
R17.
Yeah. Let's
But
see.
the problem is
Yeah.
you have
this
the
is
follow-up.
the follow-up is that I just extend, and two stones together makes a false eye in this situation.
Right. So if we play it out, so you've now done it. The group is dead. But if you were to play it out, the reason is because even if White tries to take, you can throw in again.
Yeah.
And then White
can't make an eye.
Has one eye but cannot make a second. Let's put you over here.
And it's also very, very, very important to show that to make this not like co, because this could go to co, because my group is so weak right there. There's the threat of S13.
Yeah.
Yeah, S13 is a threat that could come up later. However, I made sure this group was alive, so this doesn't work. I just Atari the stone, but
with the you have
Yeah.
your Q14 to remove the possibility that you would really be in danger.
yeah, I guaranteed that, and because of that, everything's peachy. In fact, this is an Atari of itself. So if they try to double Atari me, I'll just ignore them and capture the other stuff. Get rid of my Anji. They can't live in the court, or they can't live on the side like that. They're too weak.
I think another thing too, if we can talk about this real quick, is so we get in here. So the power, right? The advantage of being able, as your reading gets stronger, and you can read out situations like this. The real power of that reading, you can see here, because you've read out that White is dead, and that you're in the clear. If your opponent isn't able to read that, and your reading is correct, then they spend a move that allows you to just to Tanuki, to use that in so many different ways. Here you get to ensure that group is dead. You get to reduce further, making a longer chain. You get to threaten to peep N15 over here. You can take advantage of the misread and use that extra stone. And for example, here you lock down possibilities, you clean up the situation to make it stronger,
make it easier to play. Yeah, I don't have to think about it. I can just immediately play, which in a timed format like this, that's pretty important. Especially later in the game. Dun dun dun. Foreshadowing.
Did you read out the T15 play as well? That it's still.
I think I make a eye in the corner.
Do you come down?
I didn't read that out. I think I did read it out. I think it's one eye because you push in both sides. You push it R19 and then you push it
R17. Both ways only allow you
to have one eye. And you can't allow me to get through, so that's dead.
Yep.
Even with the eventual co. Yeah. Because that co isn't actually worth anything.
Right.
So it's dead.
Right, it can't threaten.
It's worth a half point. It is worth a half point. We'll give it that.
Fair. Not nothing, but so once you're here at T17, Zeronix then shifts gears and is looking to continue to push in, right? Is trying to get
that actually saves an extra stone from them, by the way. There's a way to kill the 3 stones, but now it's only 2 stones I can kill. I think the specific variation. So before that, the variation I think is so it's
With
M16, white connects, I block on top, and then
block on top,
block on
push.
top here connects. Yeah, if they push, I come up with one of the stones. I'd actually probably do the. No, yeah, I do have to do M14 first.
And then they
M13.
M13. Yeah.
Well, M13 both work, but I would have played this in my game. They block, and then I make a bamboo joint. And then it's tenuous, but it is workable. That's why I didn't actually do it, because it's very scary, and I think a capturing race.
Yeah, but I think you're ahead by.
I might be ahead. I don't know. I didn't count it, and I don't want to count it. It's scary.
You're ahead by a liberty or two in that upper group.
But yes, this actually here, or well, they play the next move. They play the next move. Yeah. And then I agree with the computer's assessment that my next move is too small. I was trying to play safe because I thought I was ahead. So I was going to play safe, right? Just capture the stones, don't run out of liberties, especially after the exchanges I made. However, I agree with the computer that I should have played a little more aggressively to give myself way more leeway and just do a jump at H11.
H11.
Right here. Yeah. I agree with the computer here. I thought I wasn't connected. I misread it, I think, at the time, because I thought the wedge works, but it doesn't, because Atari and then you connect.
Right. I think this is another great example of the difference in. So you play here, you're still good.
Yeah.
You're still good. If you a great example of the move that you ended up making because you were worried about this not working, and you were worried you wanted to play it safer, but this was a much more defensive move, which Zeronix did a really nice job of trying to seize that opportunity to lock down the possibilities for you to move out. Whereas the move the alternative move you were suggesting with H11 does get you liberties as well. So is not as long as you felt you could actually connect back and you were certain about that, the liberty issue could also be solved by instead going on the offensive as you're talking about.
Yeah,
and getting yourself from there.
Yeah, I misread it and thought I wasn't actually able to get liberties, but I was. Or maybe not. You know what? I think I'm gonna try and reread, because you can actually, I think Atariing might be a weird variation. Like, maybe you can get, no, you don't have enough liberties to, okay, never mind. You don't have enough liberties to actually do anything with that or you haven't removed enough liberties as white because you're too weak. You're doing a bunch of diagonals in the variation I'm thinking of, which diagonals are weak, guys. Don't play diagonals just to play diagonals. They get cut very, very, very easily. In fact, they're probably the easiest thing to cut.
Can you?
Anyways, this does solve my problems. So yeah, you play on the bottom.
Would you play?
You play here, the bottom. And then they would block on the block you out, and then you would Atari. But the issue is that you're too weak after I capture, and if you try to block on top, I'm still getting out. It's a false side, but I'm getting out.
Right. Which is what I mean. Which is the main thing you need, just a couple extra liberties, and I think the big difference in the situation like this is you're also then starting to encroach into this open space.
Yeah, I think that would have pretty easily won me, guaranteed to win. Cough, cough. Spoilers.
Let's go ahead. So from here, you did go ahead and play defensive in the game and explain the thought process why. Zeronix goes ahead and tries to lock down possibilities of this group and begin to strengthen things, which is a really nice job. You poke out, and then
and I try to invade here.
You jump down.
I don't know about this now. it's a little weak, and there is ways for white to cut it off. I'm not 100% sure.
So
It's tough.
can you talk to
This
me briefly just about you were with this J3 stone? It is was it were you looking at this position because it was relatively close to K6? Because it is, you are sort of, it feels more like a,
Yes
you know,
and no.
I guess I'm
There's
wondering about a
also
more
eye
aggressive
space.
like.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. I thought this was the better option for reduction because there's two. It's basically an invasion, right?
Mhm.
At least with how it looks. But if white tries to cut it off, I can make a base and try and live. So
Mm,
that's the idea. I either keep these guys connected or they get disconnected and I make a base. So either way, I'm happy.
interesting.
And then he does the mean option and attaches.
I guess was Zeronix maybe just worried that it would be too much to, like, I'm looking.
That looks like the best option to me.
Okay, I was looking at it approaching from the right side. You feel like that's just too passive, that it allows.
Um, it's not blocking in the right direction. You're blocking the bottom right, but you're not blocking the top area well enough, and it's gonna get scary for you. So I think the
You would
pincer might work, but if you do the pincer, let's just say you do double pincer. I think I do a knight's move out, knight's move at yeah right there, and that's not fun to deal with, especially with me just coming up. Yeah, that doesn't look fun. And then I can poke. I can do a bunch of mean stuff. I can hane if I want to try and you'd have to block, and then it's looking a little spicy.
fair. So because of that, or at least maybe in part because of that, we have Zeronix who does say, "I'm going to just, I'm going to try and cut you off here, and attach on top with J4." But you were, that was a possibility you were ready for.
Yeah, and then I do this. Now the cheeky thing about this move is you don't respond to this move. There's an invasion. This is like you just invade the corner, and we'll see some cheeky stuff happening soon. But yeah, they're like, okay, I'm gonna prevent you from making a base this way, and then I'm just asking right here, can I make the base this way?
Which looks
And they
right now
say,
like it's really small. The space that
it
you have to work with initially, to me, feels like you've to me it feels like, or looking at it, I feel like you've gotten in over your head. But
well, I have space to run out, and I do have at least an eye on the bottom, right?
that's fair.
So because of that, and there's still a bunch of Aji with the stones on the outside, and I still have, because I still have these threats, I can still try and go back to my group. So there's just a lot of ways for me to run around, and because of that, I wasn't too afraid
Makes
of
sense.
invading here. They block, they do the standard response, and I don't do the standard response. I think I don't know, I don't remember the Joseki, but I think it's not good for me here. Um, I admittedly do not know my attachment Joseki too well, or the attachment invasion. So I do this, and they're like peep, and then I just don't care. I'll create more weaknesses, and they have to block. And I think, what do I do here?
So then you,
I might just give up that stone.
yeah, I think so. So
Yeah,
there,
I do.
so we have white that is trying to and Zeronix is trying to shore up and strengthen their center wall here, and then also try to keep you contained and destabilized on the bottom, thinking that is the way to you to kill this group. They can contain
Yeah.
you this way.
I think they just missed the move here, though.
Mhm.
They took a leg off, but then they gave me two.
They did
um,
indeed.
this is, I think, a corner in Gote, but it's like a pretty sizable corner now. And there's still like I can rummage around and try and get some reduction from the inside. So because of that, I think this was just an accidental misplay.
Right.
Um, I capture the stones because if I don't, I get captured first.
Yep.
Now I have a big corner.
Yeah.
And then,
Now
important to note, I can push up here with my stone because it's in fact safe. Because of the falling variation, I'm basically have a clamp
Right.
at the bottom. And I make a mistake here. I just Atari just for Atariing's sake because I don't know, fatigue maybe. I was just like, hey, can I get a free win? And he's like, no. It
Whereas,
was much better for me to do the other side because I get extra reduction. Because I Atari the other way.
would you Atari to the right, or because to the right at least?
You do it this way. This is the correct for me because they'd have to take. And I'm not 100% sure what's the best outcome. I don't think you can push, but this is just an extra stone, right?
Yeah.
For that they will have to probably like this is better end game, I think. So I mean maybe what I wouldn't Tanuki here as white. Because I'd be perfectly willing to give up 2 stones in order to get like a 3 stone reduction. So
Right.
let's say they
Extend?
kill my
Just kill?
not that stone.
Oh.
Well, killing here is probably better, is what I'm saying. Let's say they kick my top stone just to make sure it doesn't live.
The
F17.
F17
Yeah.
stone.
Well, make sure it's like dead. I would kick it.
You would
here,
kick it?
Yeah,
I'd kick it.
E17. Yeah, because there's no way that's living in here. Like you'd be at least killing something here in this variation. Anyways, here I would extend at the bottom. I'd extend at E6.
Yeah. Whoops.
And then if they extend, I extend on the other side. And they extend. And then I would probably Atari here. I wouldn't connect. I would Atari to the right, maybe. Maybe pushing up is correct, but I'm afraid of getting disconnected.
I see.
So like if you push at G7
first. Yep.
Yeah, they cut.
They cut with the G4 play here.
Yes.
Yeah, G4.
Because I'm pretty sure they get laddered, and like they don't get laddered.
Oh yeah, because of the.
It's just shortage of liberties and their extra stone.
Yeah.
So like even if I tried, my stones would die. So because of that, I'm afraid of this move, and I can't get out now. Because the extension of this variation would be I would push at like I would do the same thing as last time, except so H5 now, and then they like I don't know if you'd connect. You'd connect, and if I like try to you'd connect here, and then you push down. As black. No, you don't push right.
You can't push down because you would.
Self-Atari. You're right.
Self-Atari. Would you?
You can't do anything. You're disconnected. That's a dead group. That's the issue.
No, but if they. Like you can force this as a turn, right? Which then allows you.
I mean, you get. That's dead. That's still dead, for the same reasons. Because you're surrounded. You just play something at what, F10, dead.
Yeah,
there's no way you're running through that.
Yeah.
You just play with a little bit of space. Say you can run.
I think what I was curious about was if you follow one more to give yourself an extra liberty, then turn around and try to play.
Ooh, that's surprising. I didn't read this.
To see if you.
Oh, you can push out. Oh wait.
So
it's Black's move.
So from here, this is by first, cutting here to ideally get them to go ahead and connect to them play down.
Okay, if cutting's the issue, then just play at G10 instead of F10, and then your problems are solved.
Yeah, I mean that. That would do it. Yeah.
See, my issue is that I don't read variations like that, but I can figure out the move that's correct.
Yeah. No, that gets rid of it.
Yeah.
But so in this so I think your point is a good one in the way in which the direction which we Atari or can I mean, certainly potentially could have had big ramifications, but at least could have given you a couple more points if it was
Yeah,
even
and
if it was
this,
just a
yeah.
reduction.
Well, and this one's just kind of like, yeah, can I capture this? And it's like, no, and like I'm sad. Okay. And then this is a sad point. I was playing pretty well throughout the game, I would say, and then I have about 2 minutes left, and I know I'm about to go into Byoyomi, and I start counting. Um, I ended up counting white to be about ahead by 5, which is sad because I thought I was going to be winning with
With
top
everything,
like the kills.
yeah.
Like I got so many kills from this, but I just looked and thought I didn't have enough points, and maybe I was overconfident with White's ability at the bottom. But I didn't see how he was getting enough points in endgame to really win this. It looked like White had the advantage now because I did leave up that open bottom and reduction. It's pretty strong. So I just thought that in this situation I had to invade, otherwise I was going to lose, and I didn't want to lose. Unfortunately, the score counter actually says that I was ahead by 5 to 10 points. So, unfortunate. Maybe I did like one of those stupids and accidentally like overestimated Comey somehow.
I
Comey's
mean,
strong in this position.
right. That's completely fair. I think one of the things that is important to I think is good to note though is you in counting because you felt like you were behind, you're then looking to your mindset is then I need to be I need to be more aggressive to make up the difference. Where can I begin to to jump in here and make some trouble? Because we're getting to a stage in the game where big invasions are challenging. So it's cool to see you reactivate that F-17 stone that you had originally thrown away a while ago.
Yeah, it
with
was
this
dead.
left.
It was dead. I'm like, oh yeah, no, dead. No, no, you're alive now. You better be alive, otherwise I lose the game.
And so
Yeah.
if we go through this a little bit,
That
um,
was the mistake. That was the mistake. The kick was the so computer says I instead of here at this point I should play a G18, which I guess I agree with. I get an extra I if I play a G18 right here. Um, I can probably guarantee an I, and I have threatened to clamp next move if they try to cut it off. So I should be able to get an I with 5.
in your
So
in
because of that,
mhm.
oh, what? I was just trying to get free stuff at this point.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask. Like your mindset really was that you wanted to try and do at the heaviest reduction possible and just get out and get into the center to make
No,
that eye
make life.
space. Yeah. Okay.
Sacrifice what I need. Make life. Ooh, excuse me. Yeah, just like whenever you're invading, stones don't matter. You're just trying to make life. Use all the free stuff you can find. I think I do a good job of that later. But right here, there's I couldn't be bothered to keep these connected, so I disconnected it, hoping I'd find better shape in here to make an eye, make eyes, which is probably a mistake. Um, uh, I'm no good at invasions. What can I say?
I think that
Um,
well, but I think that it's still it's still tricky to handle. I do want to sort of at the same time look at. I think Zeronix does a really nice job of now being on the opposite end of you trying to get in here and make eye shape and tear through within White's territory, and White is trying to do that contain to figure out and exploit those weaknesses here. Um,
That's good, Aji. That was good. I did use that Aji pretty well, but unfortunately, it leads to this. Um, yeah, I just don't have enough room. Unlike White had a much easier time trying to do an invasion. I think they could have made life in the center. I can't now. It's too bad. It's oh, right here. There's a variation right here. Apparently I can trap the cornerstones at the top. The big five group. Apparently there was a way for me to trap that. With the variation, let me look at it. What is it? I saw it. It was. Oh, it's gone now.
Might be
Wow.
that it.
Maybe when I first looked at this, there was a variation that killed that group. um, Apparently I could have lived here still, or yeah, I could have lived here still, according to the computer.
Hmm.
It would have been a closer game because I had to sacrifice 5 stones. Funnily enough, um, there's a not here. This is dead now.
Right, but
I'm pretty
back
sure.
back a little bit.
Yeah, there was enough space to make 2 ice, somewhere. It might have gone to Co, and I think if it goes to Co, I win.
Ah, okay. I was wondering about D14, but I hadn't been able to read it out.
Yeah, no, I'm not particularly good at this. This is if I have to do this, my game plan has failed. If I have to invade.
So
Yeah,
you
and then
have.
this is sad. This is a me trying to get stones at the bottom, kind of sad. This is a very sad ladder. This is a mistake. I shouldn't have played like that. I should have played the other Atari, or not Atari, the broken Atari at B8. That would have been slightly better, but because it threatens to extend, right?
Right, but
Because I can actually use my Aji. So like
from with
this,
if you were to do
yeah,
B8, yeah.
yeah. And this is just like me being sad. This next move, like this ladder, just made me sad. Uh, I'm there's nothing I can do. That he killed the shape using that Panuki. And there's like nothing I can really do now.
Right, and you're looking to connect, looking to try to see what you can get
There's
done.
yeah, I made a mistake there. Yeah, you don't attach there. Never. That was a quick mistake. You don't attach there. You take the knight's move away. You're playing with because of the clamp.
Oh, okay. So instead,
Yeah,
you would
you lose a
go.
few points. Yeah, you lose a few points if you don't do the knight's move. I know about this because I've played a computer a bunch that would always do this to me. I was just sad, so I think I resigned in a few moves because I knew I was lost. There's like nothing. Yeah.
Yeah. I think
Unfortunate.
it was a really fun game to observe and to talk through because I think that both sides did had some really good plays, right? Like we spent a lot of time talking about the ways in which you built up that framework, and then in the early mid game here, did a really nice job of controlling the space. Is even though Zeronix was trying to make life here, you were able to lock them down, and then you were able to get that capture in the top right, and even in the bottom left here, you're able to carve that out. So I think you had some really killer moves and were well set up. As it progressed, I think Zeronix did a really nice job here of being able to sort of answer and manage this space, particularly because this was a tight space and difficult to work within. But even though it's difficult to work within, it's if your opponent makes one slip up or one misread, you can absolutely take advantage of that. And so for Zeronix to carry that through to the end and keep you locked down and prevent you from being able to get anything on this side, and use some of the initial influence on this left hand side that they had started with to keep that intact, I think is obviously a challenging thing to do, especially when you're up against a player of similar skill. So I think it was a really nice way to close it out, and the ended up working out.
Man, these games make me sad because I was like winning for both of them. At least for a significant portion of the game, I was winning in both of them, and then at the end, I blunder and I lose the game because of invasions. Like twice, it's because of invasion. It makes me sad. Hurts me so much.
Those invasions.
Man,
I think it's really helpful, sort of, on the two different sides of it are also helpful from an outsider perspective of, how do I use the idea of the larger of larger, bigger plays to get a bunch of momentum, and then conversely, how can I look when someone's doing that? How can I look to undermine that?
yeah, I'm not good at undermining. I can good at spotting undermines, but I'm not
Right.
particularly good at using them. Is the issue. Um, I'm not a computer wizard magician, so I can forgive myself for not being good at invasions, but it does suck when you've lost twice because of it. Uh,
Close games, you know. I think that's the thing too. Is Zeronix winning 2-0 doesn't really say enough about these games. They were very close games, and some critical, just a couple critical moves here swung them, but they weren't like. I think these are two of the most. The two of you have been some of the
the
most evenly
closest, I think.
paired, yeah, of games
Yeah,
we've
this is
had.
very, very close. Like this is both about. This is like around, probably, pretty. I'd say both at prime, we'd probably be like 9Q.
Mm,
8Q maybe. Like we're both really good. My issue is that when I make mistakes, I make big mistakes, and Zeronix's issue is that they make inefficiencies or they miss very small inefficiencies a lot. Um, so it ends up like this ends up making sense. If I make one blunder per game and then Zeronix is able to spot it, I lose the game because
right,
it's just
because
a
it's a
blunder.
right.
Um, but if Zeronix makes small mistakes, it's not necessarily over because you can recover from that.
Right.
Especially if your opponent is me, who blunders big.
But I think it's also good, just sort of as a way to wrap as we start to wrap up. I think it's a good example of how you, with all of us, obviously, most definitely myself included, there are stronger aspects to our play and weaker aspects to our play. But I think when we look at these past two games in round two, games 1 and 2, and particularly this one, we can see that your ideology, your style is that you is working for you. There are parts of the games that you're still working on strengthening, but you can clearly see that your idea of being able to work with big frameworks and fast plays and back it up to get yourself into a good position, against evenly
Yeah,
skilled players is solid, right? So then what you're working on then isn't that overall style, because that overall style seems to be
I
working
can
for
play
you.
it. I understand how to play it. Let's
Yeah,
go.
yeah,
But it's more so like, oh, um, my Sumego practice doesn't help me with invasions. I can kill things, but I'm not good at making stuff alive. Uh-oh.
but if
It's
that's
just funny. I'm really good. I'm not really good at Sumegos, but like I practice them for any time I'm on my phone, pretty
mm,
much. Because I do chess puzzles and I do Sumego practice on my phone, right?
right.
So like it's not like I'm doing anything else.
Right.
So why, why? It's mildly frustrating because I'm putting a
Yeah.
lot of work into like getting better at shape and stuff and trying to use Aji. I think I had points where I used Aji pretty well.
Hmm.
There's obviously one mistake where I could have had Aji and it would have been really strong, but it's a moot point now, I'd say.
Sure. I think it's maybe another big part of it too, though, is where for players who are in a similar position, I think it is you're making an important distinction, whereas you ended up losing these two games, but that doesn't necessarily mean that your overall strategy was wrong, that your overall approach or style or the way you wanted to approach the game was wrong. You've been good about separating, trying to analyze your own strengths and weaknesses, so that it's not just you can't play big framework games. You absolutely can, and you've demonstrated that, and you've got a strength for that. It's just that there's a separate portion of the game, and handling invasions is the part you want to strengthen.
Yeah,
But I think it can be discouraging, maybe sometimes as newer players, when you may like that style, but it just doesn't work. You can feel like I have to give it up. But I think this is a great example of you don't
so
necessarily need to
you
throw
just
the
gotta
whole thing out.
adapt your moves, play what you want, adapt your moves to your play style.
Mhm.
Um, like for example, very early on, instead of playing Joseki, I Tanuki to threaten to build something big, and it worked out pretty well for the most part. Um, Zeronix had a pretty hard game for the until like the end, where I thought I
Yeah,
was losing
yeah, absolutely.
because of
Yeah,
that.
yeah. No, I
It
think
just
that absolutely had a very difficult game, and Zeronix did a nice job of trying to manage those threats. And I think another really great thing that Zeronix does do is Zeronix loses a number of stones in this game and gets captured, right? But Zeronix does a great job of keeping the focus on the larger board and looking for when a group is dead, when they've gotten surrounded and there is no way to live, they're looking elsewhere. They're continuing
Yeah.
to look for the win. And in this case, it doesn't always work for you, but in this case, that persistence ends up paying off.
Yeah, White just has a bunch. Like the issue here is that White just has a bunch of space. So because of that, it's like even if I kill a bunch of stuff, it doesn't feel like enough.
Right.
Like that's the unfortunate part. I did all this work to kill these things, and I didn't get enough board.
Right, right. All that reading, that time, and the energy, and
then I ended up going to Yomi trying to invade something because I didn't have enough points.
yeah.
Man, it's hard to invade on a 30-second clock. I will tell you that.
I believe it.
But it's just unfortunate. You can play the best game that you might have ever played for at least this period of time, and you can still lose just because you tried to play cautious.
Right.
I think the real move that was not my style, or really, it's like I usually like to press my advantage, right? Whenever I can. Unless I know it's like absurd to press my advantage. Like if I like in my early games, I think against Exmo, I knew it was a good time to hold off because I was winning by so much that I just need to defend. I don't need to really worry about points too much. I need to make sure stuff is solid. So by the end of the game, I don't lose too much,
Right.
Whereas in this game, I was trying to press as hard as I could for an advantage. And there was moments where I could have. Especially when we mentioned that jump. Instead of playing safe, I probably should have jumped, and it would have fixed the problem, and I probably would have just guaranteed the win for the game. Unfortunate, but happens.
Yeah, it happens, and it's one of the reasons we review the game is to be able to look at those things after some time with no clock on you to see what other possibilities you are, and being able to spot that obviously means in the future you're going to have an eye looking towards, double checking those reads. As we get ready to wrap up, is there any, or I guess we've been wrapping up, is there anything else that you wanted to add or comment about the game?
I played very well. I'm happy with how I played this game. I'm just upset the result doesn't match my feelings.
No, I think you did play. You played very well, and I think both you and Zeronix did a really great job in different ways. Your strengths are very apparent in this game, and I think it's a game that both of you should be. Honestly, both games in this set, I think, are games to be proud of. They demonstrate, especially strong reading for our skill level, and they were pretty intense games. So they were really great to have a chance to look at. As we wrap up here, I just want to mention that if you're a fan of chess, Wargroove, or other turn-based games in general, definitely check out the Groove of War channel. They've obviously got Wargroove, but also chess replays from the tournament. Other than that, Ruler, thank you for joining me. Thank you for giving your insight. And for everyone watching, thanks for joining us.
See you, nerds.